Okay, I think we will get started now. Thank you so much for joining this ACR application workshop on portfolios. The session will be run by our Middlesex University academics, so I'm going to pass over to them now so that they can start the session. Just a few reminders before we go. If you've got any questions at any point during the presentation, please use the Q&A and we'll get to them at the end. And just note as well that this session is recorded. Thank you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this little talk from Middlesex. We've got a few of the tutors from subjects this afternoon here with us today. We've got fashion and interiors represented, and animation and product design, and hopefully games along a little bit later to have a talk. What we're going to be covering today, what courses at Middlesex require portfolio and interview questions to think about, format of the portfolio, the content of the portfolio, presentation tips for the portfolio, careers and graduates' final work. The interview is an interesting thing in terms of the Faculty of Arts at Middlesex. It's something we're kind of changed recently, where we've started to take it away for a lot of the courses. I know one or two still do it, but we'll talk about that individually as we go on per subject. We'll be talking to product design, fashion communication, styling, and BA fashion today. Foundations, kind of a subject which covers all of the ACI, which we'll touch upon, and interior architecture and interior design. So these ones will require a portfolio, all of these. Some require interviews, some don't. As I say, we'll talk about those individually as we get to them. All students will be asked to upload a digital portfolio. That's the kind of standard procedure for getting into university now. We really want to see your work. We kind of want to see how great it is. We want to see if you're kind of a good fit for us, and equally, you want to see if we're right for you as well at the same time. Recommend that you upload your portfolio as a single PDF if possible. Alternatively, you can submit a Microsoft Word document with URL to view your portfolio, because some of you might make a digital portfolio, for example, online. We'd love to see it, such as Instagram, Behance, or your own website even, because I know a lot of you kind of do websites these days at college, which is fantastic. We'd love to see those too. So either way, as long as we can see the work, we're happy. That's the main thing. Meet the tutor. Deciding to study at university can be a big step, so we will invite you to a Meet the Tutor event where you'll be able to ask any questions you may have about the course, our facilities and the campus. You'll be able to find out more about how we teach, the student support we offer, and anything else that may be on your mind. So as I say, we've changed a little bit in some of the arts programs recently at Middlesex, where we don't do an interview for some of them. So this is kind of another part where we think it's really important that you kind of come to chat to us and come and say hello. It's in a much more informal environment now, though, and you can come hopefully see how fantastic our campus is at the same time, and give you a tour and show you all of the brilliant things that we have. And interview, this is I think for a couple of the people that will talk this afternoon. All students will be interviewed with the hybrid model, online or in campus. Information will be sent via email. Think about it as a chat about your work rather than an interview. I think that's really good advice. This is a good opportunity to ask any questions. So a lot of the time it's actually quite an informal thing. It's nothing to really be scared of. It's just a chat, just to see, know more about you as a person, kind of know about what your approaches were, work and so on. So it's not a big scary thing like often it's made out to be. We are looking to ensure that you have an understanding of the particular course you are applying for. Okay, content and format of the portfolio. Tips for presenting a portfolio. These are kind of general things for everyone, I think. We want you to present your work neatly against a white background if possible. So it's just got to be clean. We've got to be able to see it and understand it, so it's clear as possible. Avoid sort of overcrowding pages. Give your image plenty of space. So just make sure each image, if you've kind of spent time on it, is nice and clear and we can sort of see it. So give it the space it needs. Bring sketchbooks if you're kind of coming along to an interview, or scan a number of your sketchbook pages together if you're submitting it digitally. We love to kind of see the work, which is the build-up work as well as the final polished drawings. They're lovely to see all the final work, but we love to see how you got there. So some of the early sketches can be really nice to see. Avoid including too much text, so no annotation, but small captions, projected titles are useful. So don't write a huge sort of essay next to your work. It's great just to sort of see kind of a couple of notes telling us what you were thinking as you were doing the work, or the reasons why you were attempting that particular thing. It's always good to see. 3D artworks can be photographed against a neutral backdrop if possible. So if you've made something, you've got a model, or you've done some clay work, or you've made a particular piece of something, and see if you can photograph that against a nice clear backdrop. So we haven't got too much noise in the background. So good photographs where you can. Large 2D work, so you might have done a huge painting or something, can be photographed or scanned, reduced to fit in your portfolio. So we're lucky now, aren't we? We've all got amazing cameras on our phones these days. So whatever way you've got of capturing it and just including it in that digital portfolio, we'd love to see it. You might take one photo if you've got a particular big piece of work, of the piece of work by itself, and then perhaps a little one next to it showing kind of the size with the person next to it to get the scale or something, if you want to sort of show how impressive it is. Tips for presenting your portfolio have continued. Your portfolio should represent you, your interests, your way of doing things, and your ambitions. I think one of the lovely things about Middlesex University, and I can speak for it because I've been there a long time now, and I was also a student many years ago, is that we really care about you as an individual. We want to see you as your own person and bringing your own ideas and your own kind of sort of way of doing things. So please show us you, show us what you've got. Your portfolio can cover a range of subjects such as typography, layout, photography, life drawings, illustrations, printmaking, animations. Everyone's going to have a very different portfolio because you'll have different backgrounds, different places you've come from. We love to see it. We just want to kind of see your creative energy, what you've got, and kind of the ideas you've had and some of the outputs that you've produced, whatever it is that's relevant to you. Always include at least one piece of work that shows a skill in the course that you've applied for. So for example, if you applied for interiors, we'd love to see that you've done a great drawing of a building, or perhaps you've sketched a part of your room, or perhaps you've taken some brilliant photographs around the city of some cool bits of architecture you've seen. Something that kind of relates is always good to see, and I'm sure the fashion guys would say the same, and product design. You kind of want to have something that's linked to that course to show that you've got a bit of passion for it in some way. Not everything needs to be finished. Development work matters as it shows us your process. I think this is so important with portfolios. We love to see how you've worked it out, how you've got there. So your little rough sketches, your quick models, things that you've made along the way, they're just as valuable as the final kind of polished pieces. So we'd love to see as much of that as you've got as possible. Show your ideas, thought processes and visual research. So bits of things that have led you to particular directions, how you got there. We love to see the kind of whole journey, not just the result. Include work that shows you can respond to a brief. So not just sort of, doodling away, doing lovely drawings. That's a lovely thing in itself, but show us that you've worked to somebody that's given you set your particular problem or something that you've kind of worked towards. So perhaps it's something you've had set for you previously. Maybe you've set the brief yourself. Okay, this is an example of a sketchbook that we get. It's a nice one. It's actually produced by one of the foundation students, I think. But it's just to show it can be any format, it can be any size. We don't mind as long as it's creative and you're showing lots of exciting work in it. We're excited by it if you're excited by it too. Okay, so whatever format it is, we'd love to see it. And you can photograph it in any way as long as we can sort of read it on the screen, if that makes sense. A great way to demonstrate drawing skills, capture and show your ideas and experimentation. So you can see here, just scanning in the sketchbook or taking a good photograph of it and just cleaning it up and putting it on the page. That looks fantastic. We're happy with that. We'd love to see it. Kind of bits of printing, bits of kind of pen work, bits of charcoal, collage, whatever kind of you're into, really. This next section, we're going to sort of talk about the individual subjects a little bit more. Luckily, the first one's mine. I am one of the year leaders for interior architecture and interior design. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our world and kind of what we do, and perhaps the particular expectations we have for a portfolio. So interiors, we're lucky. At the moment, we're an award-winning course. We're doing really well. It's a lovely thing. We kind of top 3 in the UK for interiors courses at the moment. And we're winning lots of fantastic prizes, which is a lovely, flattering thing. But what we're most excited about is our students are doing fantastically well as well and going on to brilliant opportunities. That's what we're really in for. Kind of the main advice we give you kind of for interiors, because it's one of those subjects that doesn't get studied too much at school or college. You might touch upon it occasionally, but it's a rare thing you kind of come into contact with. So we're quite understanding. we realize you won't perhaps necessarily have, you know, drawings of plans or sections or even bits of buildings or anything related. So what we'd just love to see is your creativity. We'd love to see if you've been doing art at college and school. We'd love to see that you've, you know, put some paintings in. You might have done some sculpting before with clay or whatever. You might have made little models in your own time. We'd just love to see kind of whatever you have. Ideally for us, the portfolio should contain about 10 or 15 pieces of work. Don't worry, we're not really counting, we just as a guide. That's what we'd like to see. Kind of varied forms is important though. We'd love to kind of see that you're not just doing the same thing over and over again. So if you can sketch, rather than show us sort of 15 sketches, we'd love to see a sketch. We'd love to see you do a bit of collage, a bit of painting. So show us a mixture of things, techniques that you do. That would be really exciting to us. It's good to show a range of work using varying techniques and drawings and painting. Yep, as just saying. So yeah, life drawings, if you've done a bit of that before, figures, drawings of views where you live, drawings from your own imagination, whatever it is, we're excited. We just want to see that you've got some skills, you've kind of got an imagination, importantly, and you've got some good ideas. That's what we want to see. Examples of making. Our courses in interiors are really based around making. We do a huge amount, and we're lucky to have some fantastic workshops on the campus as well, which would get you involved with a huge amount. But because we work in a 3D world, it just makes sense, doesn't it, to do lots of making. So if you've got any previous experience at all, say whether you kind of worked with a bit of pottery before or a bit of ceramic, or even perhaps you've made little sculptures or you've made little models at home, we'd love to see it. Whatever you've got, just take some good photographs of them and pop them into the portfolio. Artistically taken or Photoshop photographs can also be interesting, or other digital media. So yeah, you might be a great photographer. Say we've all got brilliant cameras on our phones these days. So perhaps you've been out in town, you've caught some really, really great shots of buildings, whatever it is. We'd love to see that in there. That's brilliant to see. Not everything in your portfolio has to be finished work. I think we said this already as a general thing. We believe the same in interiors. You can show us your sketches, you can show us the rough stuff. I kind of advise you, if you're excited about interiors, go and look at kind of architects' sketches online. They're often really messy. They look like a doctor's signature, a lot of them. So don't be afraid of kind of those messy sketches. Sometimes they're really useful stuff, and we actually use it in a very communicative way, sketching. So it's not always about having a beautiful sort of bowl of fruit, for example, you know, beautifully shaded in. Often a quick sketch is just as valuable. So we'd love to see those kind of raw bits. Sometimes they can be really helpful as well for us to sort of see if you're the right fit for us. So yeah, please don't be afraid of showing us the rough work and the kind of work going towards it, if you like. So yeah, even if it was an experiment that went wrong or something that didn't work out, don't worry about it. We love to see kind of how you worked with it and what you found out from that. These are just a few examples of some of the work we've done with some of the first years over the last couple of years. We kind of often are working in models, and we're kind of working with real things. But this is where we hope to get you to if you sort of join our course. And yeah, often we're kind of working in collage, we're making bits of models, we're getting our cameras sort of into the models and taking photographs of it. We sometimes start in quite weird places, working one-to-one, so with physical objects at life size. But you can see kind of as a mixture of things that we do. So it's quite a multi sort of faceted subject, interiors. And so therefore we kind of like to see somebody who's got a real mixture of creativity about them. We do a lot of drawing and a lot of sketching. Don't worry if you look at these and go, oh my goodness, they're great sketches. They're really good sketches, don't worry. But we realize everyone's got a different style, different way of doing it. As long as it's kind of communicating an idea, to me, in my book, that's a great sketch. And the model at the bottom there just shows it can be a really rough thing as well. It might just be showing a layout or a very quick idea. That's fine. These just show you a kind of idea of some of where the final years and sort of later years get to. So this is what you'd be starting to work towards on interiors. And we'd love to, I think, again, the thing I'd just bring up here is kind of the value of individuality at Middlesex, and something we really push, because actually all of these students have a very different way of showing their ideas and a different way of kind of communicating what's happening within their space, if you like. And we really encourage that in you. This one on the left, for example, was inspired by Wes Anderson films, because she was really into the Grand Budapest Hotel. So she kind of took the color scheme and sort of started working with it in quite an illustrative way. So it goes to show you can show it in lots and lots of different ways, if you like. This is our studio, one of the studios we've got on the left. We're lucky to be in one of the newest buildings on the campus, and you can see there's lots of making that goes on. We'll kind of work in 2D and 3D, and often we'll kind of put shows on and things at the end of the year to kind of display your work, where we'll kind of put you in touch with as much kind of professionalism along the way as possible. So we're constantly working on projects with sort of, you know, councils and real designers and architects that we'll invite in a lot of the time as well. So our kind of job from day one is to kind of try and put you in touch with that real world of interiors as quickly as we can, really, as we go along. But what we're really looking for are creative people that are imaginative, people that are exciting, people that have a passion for kind of working with space and architecture. If you wanted to know a little bit more about us, you can scan this QR code on the screen and it'll take you to our digital magazine. It tells you a little bit more about us. It's got some examples of the work. So I'll leave it out there just for a couple of seconds so you can see it. But I will probably pass you over now to the next subject to tell you a little bit about them. Okay, so here we go, it's fashion programs, and I will let somebody take over.
Thank you, Ben. Hello, everyone. I'm Michelle. I'm the program leader for BA Fashion, and I'm going to flip things on the head a little bit and talk just a bit about the BA Fashion course here before I go to the portfolio advice. So bear with, because I think it's worthwhile doing it this way. Okay, so the BA Fashion at Middlesex looks to the physical make. It looks to the physical make of fashion and the physical make of textiles. So the shape around the body and what that shape is made out of. We deal with the garment, fashion design, and the materials that make the garment. That's textile design. We don't have textiles in our program title, but we cover textiles, guys. That's why I wanted to explain a little bit more about what we're calling BA Fashion at Middlesex. So on the program, you'll study garment construction all the way through the 3 years, but there will be an option for you to focus more on the development of the garment or the development of the textile design. Can we have the next slide, Ben, please? Okay, so this slide helps me to illustrate the idea of fashion, the symbiotic nature, the working together nature of fashion and textiles. This is Mihai, and as I said, he's a good example of someone who's been a fashion designer and also designed textiles as well. So Mihai specialised in woven textiles for fashion, and he won the prestigious British Fashion Council and British Library competition in 2022. So we have another finalist this year, well, for 2023, but the winner's not been announced yet. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're hot on the heels of Ben and Interiors in terms of competitions, right, Ben? Okay, so yeah, I hope that helps to clarify a little bit more about the working relationship between fashion design and textile design, and that comes under the umbrella at Middlesex of BA Fashion. Yeah, can we have the next slide, Ben, please? Okay, so what to include in your portfolio, and I really second everything that Ben has said when he's talking about kind of showing your rough work, showing development, all that is applicable to us as well. So, and also I think Ben touched on this idea too, but the sense of curiosity, what drives you, what you're interested in. You know, if you're doing a drawing of something, well, are you drawing it from one angle? Are you drawing it from 20 angles? Are you breaking that object up and redrawing it? So a sense of curiosity about what you're doing, about the world around you. A keen interest in fashion and textiles. Now, this does not need to be on every page, guys. As Ben said earlier, we want some examples of your interest in your chosen specialism, right? Examples of research and design development, examples of the breadth of your skills. I'm going to expand on this as we go through, but this is a list for now, guys. A willingness to experiment and take creative risks. I think you should think, what happens if? What happens if? Okay, so we want you to be experimental and to take creative risks. Evidence of your own interests within art and design, not just in fashion and textiles, in the world in general. And clear communication of ideas, clear communication of your process. Again, this goes back to what Ben was saying right at the beginning. Don't overcomplicate your pages, make it accessible for us. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions, and please do ask questions, guys. I think we're relatively approachable at Middlesex. I love working there, as Ben does, so please ask questions. Can I have the next slide, please, Ben? So these slides we've put in to show you some ways of working that you might consider. I'd say this is probably sort of about foundation level. It's within your grasp. It's absolutely within your grasp, guys. Okay, so don't be scared of dealing with the figure. Do not be scared of dealing with the figure, because if you're going to do something around fashion, you're going to be dealing with the figure. It's the vehicle for your creation, right? Your creation is sitting around it. So you can do some simple things like play with old clothes, put them on upside down, you know, have 20 garments on your arm, play with big shapes. If you look to the image that's at the right, those are simple fabric manipulations where people have scrunched them, pulled threads, etc. So play and explore. Can we have the next slide, please, Ben? Okay, if you're interested in colour, and you should be, then some colour experimentation, simple things, look at the top left. Have you got digi skills? Bottom left, this is someone who's probably placing drawings against the figure. Have you got any existing textile skills? We don't expect necessarily that you to have this, but this student was doing some hand weaving. They made their own kind of warp and weft, threads that way, threads this way, and did a bit of rough kind of hand weaving. That we'd look at that. Anything that you can do already, though, we don't expect it. Let me just check my notes, guys. Yeah, so you can develop, if we think about how can you show an interest in materials, in materiality, you don't need to just think about fabrics. You can think about clay, as Ben says. You can think about wood. You can think about foam. You can think about rubber. Playing and manipulating those materials. Can we have the next slide, please, Ben? Okay, so this is, if you look to the left, this is a student who's been interested in what happens, what happens if I put wax on a bit of felt and start stitching, put some beading, throw some paint on it. Yeah. The slide, sorry, the image next to it is someone who's been interested. Oh, no, thanks, Ben. That's fine. In manipulating old tin cans. So any kind of everyday materials that you can change, make simple changes to, yeah, that show your interest in materiality. We're interested in that. You may be lucky enough to know about future material futures, textile designers working with biologists, for example, designers working with living systems. If any of that future textiles works, or circular fashion, responsible design floats your boat, put a little indicator in. We do not expect it, but if you're interested, fair enough. Can we have the next slide, please? Drawing. As Ben said, we look at all sorts of drawing. It doesn't have to be about the figure. I've put this in because this was a starting point, really early starting point for one of our students, and they'd made like little sort of paper models of a figure, taken drawings from another source, their own source, and then placed them sympathetically on the figure. So that's really simple fashion collage. If you can show any drawings in your portfolio, well, it should have drawing in. We can have drawings of 3D objects, drawings of shoes, anything with volume. Because if you can, we're looking for how you think in 3D, I suppose, is what I'm saying with that. All right, but any kind of drawings, line drawings, charcoal, anything, put them in, okay? What am I talking about now, Ben? Just one moment. Oh, no, drawing, yeah. Oh, yeah. So let's look at some. I hope, guys, that gives you an idea of what to include. Don't think, if you feel you can't draw, we might think you can draw in a really super interesting way. So include it, all right? Include it. Just, we want to be really encouraging. I know it, as Ben said earlier, it's a big step, but give it a go, okay? And work with your tutors. Okay, so let's look at some 3D work now. Can we have the next slide, Ben, please? This is a film, so it might take just a couple of seconds to crack on. You might have to start it, Ben. So this is some students who graduated this year. We might have to just wait a sec. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So this is a student who did fashion print. Ruth, this is a student, Daniel, and he did fashion design. He was recycling garments and making new garments. This is Sandra, pure fashion design, clever pattern cutter. Yeah. Fashion knit, Emily. So looking at fine knit against really, really chunky knit. Woven textiles for design. This is Vanessa. So you all get to do at least one look, and we have a lookbook. This is kind of like a sort of professional page out of the magazine, the Accused portfolio. Not explaining that very well, but a lookbook, yeah. Okay, can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. Okay, so if you work hard at Middlesex, if you work hard and use all the fantastic facilities, pick the brains of the tutors and pick the brains of our fantastic technicians, you can do really well. So here's some examples, graduates in the press, alumni. We've got BBC, we've got Vogue, got Face, we've got Evening Standard, The Guardian. Okay, that's just a few. So can we have the next slide, please, Ben? So you might think, well, it's all right, tutors up here yakking away about how fantastic everything is. But here's some feedback from some of the fashion students at Middlesex. I'm not going to read it out. Speed readers can have a little look now. At the bottom, we had a super bit of feedback from Andy from a company called No Uniform, and they've taken 6 of our students on placement. They've offered 2 students full-time roles, and they're continuing to work with us. So that's just one example of our links with industry. Can we have the next slide, please, Ben? Okay, at Middlesex, we also work collaboratively. If you look to the top right, this is a fashion and animation collaboration. And this film actually was voted one of the 10 best under 1 minute films by Film Freeway this year. So I'm just going to let that run if I've got time, because I'd like you to see a little bit more of it. It's kind of a stereotypical version of what a fashion designer is. Smoking, drinking, smoking. Don't smoke. Okay. And on the left, to segue me nicely into the lovely Helen Delaney's talk, we also work with fashion communications. We do a few projects with the fashion communication each year. And this is the first one we did this term to your top left. Yes, so our students were getting dressed in interesting shape, and the fashion communication students were documenting it and photographing the students. So I'll hand you over now to Helen from Fashion Communication and Styling. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm Helen Delaney, one of the lecturers on fashion, communication and styling. And today I just want to talk to you a bit about the students' work and also a little bit about who the team are at Fashion, Communication and Styling, also known as FCS. So in this course, it is quite multidisciplinary, and the team that are involved in it are actually a lot of industry professionals working in fashion and creative industry themselves. So we, for example, we have some staff from the course who are working currently in Perfect Magazine, Wonderland, The Face, and who've worked on Man About Town, Vogue, Pop, and so on. So all the sort of top titles in publishing. Also, some of the brands that the staff work with are Rita Ora, Mickey Blanco, Madonna, Adidas, Nike, Youngblood, and many more. So just to kind of give you a sort of taste of what sort of work background the staff have, and then we can translate that to the students. So, and also in terms of what projects we work on, we end up doing analog and digital work, but we also do some nice publishing books of some of the work of the students. So you can see here we have some photography magazines we did. This was also an exhibition that ran across the 3-year groups. So this is a really good time to sort of showcase the work from year 1, 2, and 3 in a gallery, Central London Gallery. So that was very exciting. And again, then the magazine to take away from that. If you see from the next slide, we have some students' work. This is across the year groups as well. In first year, there's a magazine project again here, which you can see some photography work, some collage. So that also brings me to what sort of elements we'd expect in your portfolio. So as you can see, it's quite a diverse range of image making here. So we'd expect 10 to 15 pieces. We'd also expected to have, depending on what your interests are, but probably ideally some photography, visual communication, some illustration, some styling, or digital projects. So a range of your best work, but also some of your research. It's quite an experimental course, so we would expect you to include any sort of ideas, notes, and yeah, put those in and your sketches. Also, just to keep it in a coherent flow so that it's easy to follow. So there's sort of the main things we would expect in the portfolio, but also ideally saved as a PDF, as Ben outlined at the beginning. And the next slide, just to showcase a little bit more of the work. We have, like I said, a big crossover between the digital and the analog, which is print. We have great facilities for the students, so we've used access to old school techniques in the print studios, but also photography. And then we have like latest, state of the art, also facilities for digital outputs. Yes, so I think I pretty much covered everything. We expect a high standard of outcomes, and we also, like I said, encourage multidisciplinary work. So it is quite broad what you can do. There's also some films that have come out of this course, and students who've gone on to become filmmakers as well. So quite a high success in that. In terms of the next slide, we can see, some more of the print and digital outcomes that the students have achieved. And on the next slide, we'll also see some more, image making is quite key here. So the students will collaborate with each other, but also with the whole fashion department. So for example, they'll do casting as well as styling, photography, and sometimes get involved in the hair and makeup as well. So if you've got interest in all of those, you get to kind of get a taster for those things. But also we collaborated with the fashion and textiles department to create an amazing show recently, which was held on campus, and it was coordinated by the FCS students. So that was quite exciting and great fun, as well as really high standard. So and just sort of in industry level, we have quite a high success in terms of the portfolios being up to like a high standard. But also we go to the next slide, you will see these are some of the digital outputs. So this film here has received awards and has been very exciting success for this one in terms of it being sponsored by Nike. So you can see these collaborations started in second and third year, and then they continue on into their professional lives. So on the last slide here, you'll also see an exciting campaign that was created by Jared, who created this in third year, and it was picked up by Valencia again, using the real campaign. So I think that's sort of a nice crossover from, you know, having an exciting range of skills developed throughout the course and then bringing it straight to industry standard, and then being part of it all. So that's pretty much the FCS lowdown. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. So hi, I'm Kate. I'm the program leader for product design here at Middlesex. So I'm slightly different from the other programs in that our program is housed within the Faculty of Science and Technology as opposed to Arts and Creative Industry. So we have a slightly different process in terms of applications. So we'll interview every single UK applicant that comes to us. And that's really important to us because we're a really small program, around 20 to 25 students as a maximum per year. And it's really important to us that we can build a really functional design team that can work together. And so allowing you to come to the campus, to look at facilities, to chat to students, and to allow us to have a conversation around the portfolio is really important. Again, I'm going to build on lots of things that other people have said about the portfolios and our passion just to get to know a little bit more about you. And that's what this process is all about. The word interview can seem terribly scary, and I can guarantee there's no difficult questions asked, but the role of the portfolio really is just to help us to have a really interesting conversation and find out more about you. And we know that all the portfolios are different that are going to come to us, and the portfolios are largely driven by the experiences that you've had to date. So the subjects that you've studied, the school or college that you've been at, perhaps even the expertise of the teaching staff that you've been working with. So no two portfolios are ever the same, and there's not really a right way to do a portfolio. What we want to find out about is you, your current skills and the experiences that you've been through. And you can tell us that story through the work that you put in your portfolio. We're not looking for people that have got the best portfolio because we don't expect you to know it all already, because that's why you're coming to university to study with us. But again, building on what everybody else has said, what we're really interested in is your creativity, your thought processes, and the experiences that you've had to date. So we find that if people come from different backgrounds, we'll generally see very different kinds of portfolios. Sometimes people will come in with a fine art portfolio. Sometimes people will have studied product design and then they'll be able to bring projects from their school or college with them. Sometimes people have come from slightly non-traditional routes, maybe mature students or students that have studied media or engineering, and they'll have different assets that they can bring to us. But what we want to see is evidence of some kind of creative process, whether that's from your studies or personal projects that you've done yourself. We're open to seeing all of it, as long as we can have a conversation around the work and find out more about you. It's really important, if you can, to show a range of skills in the portfolio. So again, as everybody else has said, not just the finished products, but it's all the process that you've gone through to get there. We say to people, always bring your best work, bring the things that you're really passionate about, because if we're going to have a conversation, we want to see your enthusiasm shining through as you have that conversation. We also really like to see personal projects that people are doing and hobbies and things that you're interested in. So we've seen everything from knitting and crochet through to Warhammer models. And again, all of that is a really interesting demonstration of the person that you are and allows us to have these really interesting conversations. Next slide, please, Ben. So in terms of how we do the portfolio, we generally ask people to bring a portfolio with them, whether that's a physical portfolio or a digital portfolio on a tablet or a laptop. Or a web address where we can view the portfolio. Think about things like the order of the work to allow us to have a conversation and for you to tell a story about who you are. That's really, really important and really useful. We'll chat generally to you for around 15 minutes. So I don't really like the word interview, it's more just a conversation. So as you're showing us your work and talking about your process, we'll ask interested questions because we're really excited to see the work that you've done. So it will become a conversation rather than a question and answer session. If you're applying from overseas, then please just upload a single PDF and then we'll work with that portfolio. People often get really nervous about what to put in the portfolio. So I always say that if you're anxious or concerned, you're welcome to email me ahead of the interview date and we can talk through the kind of content that you might want to put in that. And there's some examples here of the kind of things that we might see in a portfolio. So this is some work from some of our students in recent years, but showing what a prototype might look like, what an experimental project might look like, where people are testing stuff out and thinking and using perhaps slightly non-traditional materials. Next slide, please, Ben. So the course at Middlesex has run for over 25 years, so we're a very well-established programme here. We scored 100% student satisfaction in the recent National Student Survey, and we're accredited by the Institution of Engineering Designers. Excuse me. So what you'll end up with if you come and study on a course like ours is a really broad skill set. And that's one of the things that I really love about the subject is the range of career options that are available to you. You'll develop skills in creativity and communication. You'll get to understand people and products. You'll get to know how to design for manufacture using CAD software like SolidWorks and use 3D printing. And you'll start to engage in really interesting conversations about the role of the designer in society and our impact on the environment and on ethical choices. You'll have a chance to work on a broad range of projects across all sorts of sectors, and there'll be huge amounts of interaction with industry throughout that. And here's a snapshot of just some of the work that appears on our Instagram feed. We use the Instagram feed quite significantly, and I'll share the link in a minute on one of the slides, but we have not only a curated feed of our own programme, but we encourage students and staff to use a particular hashtag for the work that they do on the programme. So it's a really interesting way to get that kind of inside view of what's actually happening on the ground. Next slide, please, Ben. And just to give you a couple of examples of project works, because it's always really interesting to see what comes out of a programme. And I often say to people when they're applying, this is the best way to get a sense of what's the right programme for you. So don't just listen to what the staff say, but go and try and find out what the student work actually looks like. Because product design is a very broad term, which can mean different things to different people. And by looking at the student work, you'll get a sense of, is that the kind of designer that I want to be? Is that the kind of course, the kind of design I want to do? So this is an example of a project from one of our students, Harry, who graduated in July. He was fortunate to win the Product Design Award in the Global Graduate Design Show this year for his work reconceptualizing what the household kettle might be. Next slide, please, Ben. It's really interesting to get a snapshot of what the work and the process actually looks like and the kind of work that would go into a project like this. He did a really thorough investigation into existing products. He was looking at challenges people face with kettles and looking at all sorts of really interesting issues to do with usability and sustainability. He developed a product which was a pour-to-boil system, so that as you pour the kettle, it would instantly boil the amount of water needed for a particular cup. And it was also a product that was able to be completely stripped down and cleaned and have elements replaced. So a really interesting piece of relevant design work. Next slide, please, Ben. In the same year group, a completely different kind of project. So this was Faiza, and she developed a light painting wand. And it's really important because it shows that product design isn't just about doing worthy projects and solving problems, but it can be doing really interesting things with designing experiences and designing behaviors. So Faiza was really interested in trends that are happening with events, developments in new technology, and she wanted to develop a really fun and playful system that could be taken to a range of different contexts. Next slide, please, Ben. So she was looking at things like Snapchat filters that could be customized for different locations. And she went through a really thorough investigation of looking at how this technology could actually become a handheld device. As a designer, it's one of those things where we don't know it all because there's so many different things that we could do. And so what we get really good at is teaching students how to solve problems, how to find stuff out, how to try stuff, how to test stuff, and how to make those design decisions. Often working outside of their comfort zone and working from an idea to a thing that actually works. So again, we don't just stop at the interesting concept, we look at how we can actually make this thing happen. And this is a really interesting snapshot of kind of some of the processes that she went through, developing a very technical system. She wasn't a very technically kind of leaning towards technical projects, but as she got into the process, she became really interested in how to make this thing work. And she did. Next slide, please, Ben. So again, this is just kind of a snapshot of who we are. And again, I would encourage anyone who's interested in a product design course, whatever the university you're interested in looking at, try and look at graduate work. So you can see here our Instagram feed and the hashtag, which I'd encourage everybody to go and look at. From there, and our bio and our Instagram feed, you can also access our program magazine, which is issued annually. And we've done things like snapshots on where our graduates are now. We're also present at the New Designers exhibition in July, so that's held at the Business Design Centre. And again, it's a great way to get an overview of all of the different courses that are out there across the country, to speak to students, to speak to staff, and actually find out a little bit more about the subject and how it works. So I shall stop there. But again, any questions, happy to take those today. Thank you.
And thanks very much. Okay, that's great to hear. At this point, I think we're just opening up the floor to any questions, any things that people would like to ask us. I'm sure you've probably heard a lot of information from all of us, but there's probably something in there rattling around that you go, no, he didn't say that, or she didn't mention that. So please don't be shy. Please pop it in the Q&A and we'll happily try and answer anything you have.
Just another note, thank you so much for giving all that information. I'm sure it's very helpful. On the screen at the moment, we have our next open events. So if you would like to see our facilities in person, you want to just see the university, would really recommend going along to our open day, which is on the 24th of February. After this workshop, we will send you an email with a link where you can sign up. But if you want to come along sooner and you want to see the university tomorrow, there's a QR code that you can scan. And if you just select the option for campus tours, then you can come along from 4 till 5 tomorrow to see the campus. We'll be here for a few more minutes. If you do have any questions, please put them in the chat. I think in that case then, that's probably all that we have time for today. Thank you so much for attending. It's been great to have you. And thank you to all of our academics for presenting as well. We will finish the session here then.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Have a lovely rest of the day.